All right, we will do a little bit of the anatomy of the digestive system on this cat. Now I'll start up in the thorax and bang all my stuff everywhere. Here we go. Now, we've got the trachea. There's my forceps. Oh. All right, so we looked at the respiratory system already. There's your trachea there. Behind it, you will see a little muscular tube. Can you see it right there? That is the esophagus. It basically runs from the pharynx down. It's behind the trachea, goes behind the heart, which would have been here, through the diaphragm, right here. And leads into, here's your stomach, so the esophagus is right here. If I can clear it a little bit. There is the esophagus going into the stomach. So there's that valve we talked about. Move my light a little bit. There's a valve between the esophagus and the stomach. So right here, gastroesophageal valve or cardiac valve is right here. It's a sphincter, an enlarged ring of circular smooth muscle. It prevents the food from exiting your stomach back out your esophagus, so you can stand on your head after you've eaten, and it doesn't pour out your mouth, which is kind of handy. So if I put a little pin in there, let's say where that pin is during the lab, if I wanted the valve, since it's not clear exactly where it is, the question will ask you identify, and then in quotes it'll say valve or something. And you'd want cardiac sphincter or gastroesophageal sphincter. Then you got the stomach. Greater curvature is right here, lesser curvature is up here. And you'll see a delicate membrane right here connected from the lesser curvature to the liver right here. This whole delicate membrane, that's the lesser omentum, which you can't see on our human models. There's a little lobe of the liver almost poking through it there. But that delicate thing is the lesser omentum. Attached to the greater curvature of the stomach is this mess right here. Here's the stomach's greater curvature. This big membrane is the greater omentum. It's protective. It also has it's a fat storage organ. All this fat you can see, kind of pale looking stuff, is adipose tissue or fat. So that's hanging from the greater curvature of the stomach. Then at the downstream end of the stomach, pyloric region, it ends right here, and this is a small intestine or duodenum. You'll often see a little constriction there because there's another sphincter there. That's the pyloric sphincter between the stomach and the small intestine. And that one is visually easier to see externally. Like I said, you can usually see a little constriction there. It's all stained green here because this is where the bile comes in. You can see the liver here. These are the lobes. Again, you don't have to identify specific lobes on the cat. But right here, between these two lobes, you see this little bag-like structure here. That is the gallbladder, also stained green because of the biliverdin in the bile. It's common. Now the ducts I often don't ask on the cat, but coming out of the gallbladder, funny, look, this guy has a gallbladder with two lobes in it. There's one there and one there. I've seen that a time or two. Coming out of the gallbladder would have been the cystic duct, and then hepatic ducts coming out of the liver. Common bile duct would be down here somewhere. I don't usually ask those ducts on the cat, but you can see the gallbladder. This one almost looks like it has two. Look at that. It looks like little bunny ears or something. Usually it's just one bag. That's a gallbladder. Now inside the stomach, if I cut it open, get a pair of scissors here, might be able to see some rugae, particularly at the pyloric region of the stomach. Again, a little bit of contents in there, but these kind of wrinkly looking folds, you can see them a bit here at the pyloric region. Those are the rugae. Well, accordion-like folds allow the stomach to expand quite a bit when you fill it with food, so it'll distend a bit. So we already got the liver and gallbladder. Now, the other thing you can do, take this greater omentum, that's the spleen, you can see that dark colored organ there. If we lift all of this up, the pancreas is right here. Kind of looks like pale hamburger meat on these preserved specimens. It's running right behind the stomach. See a bit of it here, kind of runs down here. And it'll actually go to the small intestine, which is here. And on the cat, it follows it down a wee bit. So this is all pancreas here. Kind of lift up the greater omentum and stomach to see it. Then, looking at the intestine, so here's the pyloric sphincter. This is all small intestine, small intestine, small. All of this is small intestine. These, of course, are the mesenteries, kind of a curtain-like membrane holding these things to the abdominal wall. You see branches of the superior mesenteric arteries and veins running through them. So those are mesenteries. Now this is all small intestine. And the small intestine goes until you reach the colon. This is the colon or large intestine. It's quite a bit shorter. It's just larger in diameter. So it's bigger around this way. Large intestine here, small intestine here. Now the small intestine typically separated into three regions: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Since I'm not having you learn the landmarks on the cat, we're not going to be too picky about it. But first part of the small intestine, which would be about 12 inches in a human, short in a cat as well, but not 12 inches. This is a duodenum. So if I wanted specific parts of the small intestine, if I'm very close to the stomach and ask you to be specific, the first bit of the small intestine is duodenum. If I'm at the downstream end, here's the colon. I know this is the end of the small intestine right here. That has to be the ileum. Other than that, we're not going to look at landmarks, so the rest of it's small intestine. Now, one other thing I can do, I'm going to cut into the colon here, and you should be able to see the ileocecal valve. I open this up. Yeah, see that little hole right there? That's the opening to the ileum. There it is. So that's where the ileocecal valve would be located. This other bit going in here, that little dead end sort of pouch, it's not very long, so maybe a centimeter in the cat. That's the cecum. So here's the ileocecal valve. So this is the cecum, the dead end pouch. The rest of this is colon. So you got like three things here. You got the ileocecal valve, you got the cecum, and you got the ileum. And of course, there's your large intestine or colon. Most of this, except for a bit of the duodenum, is covered by the visceral peritoneum. Lining the cavity is a parietal peritoneum, just the membrane, the serous membranes covering them. We got the liver, we got the pancreas. Oh, while we are here, let me look at the kidneys, see if they're intact a bit. All right. Since we did the renal system also, here's the kidney. They often have a lot of fat around them. It's protective. They're not that well protected by bone. But that's a kidney. It's got its own little connective tissue capsule. There, I've cut a bit of it away. All that blue is latex from the injection. But right there, you can see the capsule. See that connective tissue sheet I'm tearing away? Right there. That's the renal capsule. It's a little protective connective tissue sheet there. The probe's under it now. So the kidney, it's capsule. Then coming out of the kidney, there should be a couple of ureters that drain the calyces and the pelvis. This is it right here. They usually look kind of pale white on our dead cats. Ureters will come down. Slide this cat out of here. Get my camera. So here's your ureter. Comes down, comes down, comes down, and enters the urinary bladder, which is right here. So you'd have two ureters. The one on this side is no longer intact. Got one ureter coming to the bladder. There'd be one on the right. And then the bladder is drained by the urethra. So I've just pulled the bladder up a little bit. You'll see the last or third tube right here. That little white tube coming out, that's the urethra. So you got one urethra, two ureters, although one of them's kind of been cut off. There it is. Urethra, ureter, ureter, bladder, kidneys, and capsule. That's it for the renal system on the cat. Then don't forget, we'll have to look at those pig kidneys as well. Let's see. That is most of what you'll need on the cat. The upper parts, you know, the salivary glands and so forth will be on the human models. The other thing I might do, you could actually take the intestines, the whole alimentary canal out and string it out, and it looks kind of cool, but I think I'll leave it like that for now. All right, we'll call that quits for that one. Let me get a paper towel so we can shut this thing off.